in his own body. We do not deny the perfect sinlessness of Christ. We believe and teach that he was holy, harmless, undefiled and separate from sinners, Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 26, and that he was in all points tried as we, yet without sin, Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 15. This was his intellectual and moral status. His character was clean, yet he was not perfect. This he says of himself, and therefore we may safely affirm it with him. He tells us that he was not perfected until the third day, Luke chapter 13 and verse 32, when he was perfected in recompense for his obedience unto death, Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 10, and Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 9. Read though for connection Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 7 to 9. That which was imperfect was the nature with which the Logos that came down from heaven to do the Father's will clothed himself. That nature was flesh of the stock of Abraham, compared in Zechariah chapter 3 and verse 3 to filthy garments, symbolic of the same weaknesses he himself is subjected to, Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 2. For this infirmity called himself, and for all of the same infirmity associated with him by faith in the promises made with Abraham and David, and in him as the mediator thereof, he poured out his blood as a covering for sin. Upon this principle, his own self bore our sins in his own body to the tree. The first letter of Peter chapter 2 and verse 24. Sins born in a body prove that body to be imperfect and characterize it as sin's flesh. Sin's flesh is imperfect and well adapted for the condemnation of sin therein. Sin could not have been condemned in the flesh of angels, and therefore the Logos did not assume it, but clothed himself with that of the seed of Abraham. Hence, the deity sent his own Son in the identity of sin's flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. Romans chapter 8 and verse 3. This condemnation accomplished, the body slain was made alive again and perfected, so that it now lives for the ages of the ages as the Lord, the Spirit,